They beat me, humiliated me, and forced me to watch as my wife willingly became their plaything. Her boss, Rick, mocked me, sending a sickening video and warning me to stay out of their way. They thought I was broken, that I would remain helpless forever. But while they laughed, celebrating their lust and power, I was silently setting their world on fire. Soon, my cheating wife and every last one of them would beg for the mercy they never showed me. I had always believed in the idea of loyalty. It was a value instilled in me by my parents, one I held dear in my marriage to Sarah. We had been together for 8 years. 8 years I thought were filled with love, trust, and partnership. We had built a life, a home, a future. But as most things go, it's never the small cracks you see at first. It's the ones that grow into chasms you can no longer ignore. Sarah had always been ambitious, a driven woman with big dreams. She worked as a manager at a prestigious firm, and for the most part, I admired her. She was smart, confident, and her successes seemed to shine through. But as her career took off, our relationship began to lose something vital. It wasn't sudden, no, it was gradual. She became more distant, less interested in the things that used to bring us together. The late nights at the office, the unexplained weekend trips with friends I could never attend, and the increasingly cold responses when I tried to connect with her. I began to notice things that didn't make sense. Small things, like her phone constantly being face down, or her responses when I asked about her day becoming more vague. But I couldn't bring myself to ask the question, not until the moment when it all came crashing down. It happened one evening after I got home early from work. I was excited to surprise Sarah with dinner, to spend some time together. But instead, I was met with a scene that would forever haunt me. When I walked into our bedroom, I heard the muffled voices first. There, in the middle of our sanctuary, was Sarah and her boss, Rick, the man she had spent so much time with at work, the man who had always been a constant presence in our lives. They were tangled in each other, with Sarah not even pretending to resist. The look on her face was one I would never forget, pleasure, satisfaction, that I knew didn't come from me. It felt like the floor beneath me gave way. For a moment, I was frozen. And then, before I could even comprehend the weight of what I was seeing, they noticed me. Rick, ever the charismatic leader, gave me a smug grin. "She's mine now, buddy," he said, his voice cold but laced with satisfaction. "You've been nothing but a stepping stone for her." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. It was as if I was watching a movie I had no control over, one where I was a joke, the fool, the weak man. Sarah didn't even look at me. She simply continued, as if I wasn't there. The silence that followed was deafening. But the worst part was yet to come. A few days later, I received a message from Rick. It was a video of Sarah willingly with him, her face painted with the same expression from that night. The video ended with Rick's voice, "Stay out of our way. You don't matter anymore." The words hit me harder than anything. I wasn't even a man to them. I was a ghost. Rick mocked me, sending the video to remind me of my place in their world. He wanted me to know just how powerless I was. And Sarah, she didn't fight back. She didn't even care. They thought I was broken, that I would remain their pawn, too weak to fight back. They were wrong. The pain that coursed through my veins turned into something darker, more potent. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was a quiet rage. I knew I couldn't confront them immediately. They would win. I had to be patient, strategic. It wasn't just about punishing them. It was about destroying their sense of security, about taking everything they took from me. I started to gather information. I took my time learning everything about their relationship, their business dealings, and their secrets. I went through Rick's financials, Sarah's accounts, everything I could use to destroy them. I also started to change. The man who had been beaten down, humiliated, and mocked slowly became something else, someone who would make them beg for mercy. It took time, but I began to rebuild myself mentally and emotionally. I became a ghost in their world, moving in silence, watching from afar as Sarah and Rick celebrated their affair behind closed doors. I was quietly working to take everything from them. I had been planning for months. I knew their weaknesses, their dirty secrets, the things they thought no one knew. It started with Rick's shady financial dealings. I uncovered evidence of embezzlement, fraud, and tax evasion. enough to ruin him. I leaked the information to the authorities and the media, ensuring that his downfall would be public and humiliating. Next, I turned my attention to Sarah. I exposed her affair to her colleagues, her friends, and her family. I made sure everyone knew the truth about the woman she had become. Her reputation was shattered, and she was forced to resign from her position at the firm. But I didn't stop there. I wanted them to feel the same pain they had inflicted on me. I wanted them to know what it was like to lose everything. I sold our house, our cars, and all our possessions, leaving Sarah with nothing. I cut off all ties with her, ensuring that she would never be able to reach me again. As for Rick, he was arrested and charged with multiple counts of financial fraud. His career was over, and he faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. The media had a field day with his downfall, and he became a pariah in the business world. In the end, I walked away from the wreckage I had created. I had taken everything from them, just as they had taken everything from me. But I didn't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. Instead, I felt empty. The rage that had fueled me for so long had burned out, leaving behind only ashes. I had won, but at what cost? I had become the very thing I despised, a man consumed by vengeance. And as I looked back on the life I had destroyed, I realized that the true victory would have been walking away from the start, leaving them to their own devices and finding a way to heal. But it was too late for that now. The fire I had set had consumed everything in its path, including me. And as I stood amidst the ruins of my former life, I knew that I would never be the same again. I leaked documents to the press, exposing Rick's involvement in tax fraud, embezzlement, and illegal business transactions. The scandal hit hard. Within weeks, his business partners distanced themselves, and authorities launched an investigation. But that was only the beginning. I needed to dismantle Sarah's world, too. She had helped him, after all. I ensured the media received a full dossier on her, her complicity in the fraud, her lack of loyalty, and her infidelity. The public turned on her. Friends, colleagues, and even family began to pull away. She thought she could escape, but she couldn't outrun the consequences of her actions. Weeks passed while Sarah and Rick reveled in their illicit relationship, oblivious to the world uncovering their secrets. The noose I had been quietly tightening began to choke them. The first crack appeared when Rick's company received a call from a journalist asking about the leaks. The details of his fraudulent dealings and financial corruption started eroding his standing in the business world. It wasn't just the press. His business partners began distancing themselves, seeing him as a liability rather than the charismatic entrepreneur they once admired. The fallout didn't stop at his professional life. Rick's personal life crumbled too. News of his criminal behavior, compounded by the public disgrace of his affair with my wife, spread like wildfire across social media. Friends, mutual acquaintances, and even strangers expressed disgust at his hypocrisy and Sarah's complicity. Their world was unraveling, but I knew the final act of revenge would be even more painful, more personal. Targeting Sarah required precision. She never saw it coming, convinced she had escaped the consequences of her betrayal. I waited for the perfect moment, when her shame was at its peak, her career teetering on the edge. Her image was already tarnished, her colleagues avoiding her, and her loyalty questioned. But I needed to push further. I sent a confidential letter to Sarah's CEO detailing her role in Rick's fraud scheme. It highlighted how she had used her position to cover up financial discrepancies and actively participated in money laundering. Attached were hard evidence, emails, bank transfers, and fake invoices that proved her involvement. The letter didn't go unnoticed. The next day, she was called into an emergency meeting with the board directors. By the time she walked out, she wasn't just embarrassed. She was terminated. Everything was falling into place. Rick's reputation was in ruins, and now it was time for the ultimate showdown. I invited Sarah and Rick to meet me at an upscale restaurant, a place where they'd feel comfortable, thinking they had escaped the wreckage of their lives and survived. They were wrong. When they arrived, their arrogance was palpable. They sat across from me, masks of self-satisfaction firmly in place. "How's everything going, Ryan?" Rick asked with a smug smile, as if he hadn't just destroyed my life. "Actually, it's going pretty well," I replied calmly. "It's funny how quickly things change, isn't it? Sarah froze, the color draining from her face, as she sensed something was wrong. But it wasn't until I placed an envelope on the table that panic set in. "This is for you," I said, sliding it toward them with a cold smile. Rick's hands trembled as he opened it, his eyes scanning the contents and widening in shock. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice rising in confusion. Inside the envelope was a final blow. Confidential documents proving Rick had been embezzling money from his company for years, along with evidence of illegal side deals. The package also included photos of his affair with Sarah, which would devastate his professional life. I had already ensured this information reached the right people: the press, the authorities, and the board of directors. The final nail was already in their coffins. Now I was just making sure they were fully exposed. Within a week, their world collapsed. Rick was fired, arrested for embezzlement, and found guilty of fraud. The press coverage was brutal. His former allies abandoned him, and the business empire he had built crumbled. As for Sarah, her career ended abruptly. The scandal surrounding her involvement in Rick's schemes and their affair made it impossible for her to find another job. Her friends turned their backs on her, and her family disowned her when they learned of her betrayal. The most painful realization for Sarah was that I didn't need her to survive. I didn't need the woman who had torn my life apart. She was no longer important to me. I had reclaimed my life, and my satisfaction didn't come from watching them lose. It came from knowing they had made me the villain, but in the end, I had become the hero of my own story. When it was over, I walked away from the wreckage of their lives. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I had proven my point. Betrayal has consequences, and it's never worth destroying someone for your own gain. I never sought forgiveness from Sarah. She had lost her chance when she chose to betray me and destroy the trust we had built. Her humiliation was the only payment I needed. As for Rick, his greed and arrogance were his undoing. He thought he could outsmart me, take my life, and enjoy the power, but in the end, he lost everything. Was my revenge justified, or did I go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you love ruthless revenge stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Like and share this video, it means a lot. Every video you see takes time, dedication, and heart to create, and it's made just for you.